People don't leave companies. They leave cultures where they don't feel valued. Welcome to the Appreciation at Work podcast, where we share real stories from leaders building workplaces that teams don't want to leave. I'm your host, Dr. William Attaway. I'm excited today to have JC Hite on the podcast. JC is one of the co-owners of Appreciation at Work, and man, this is going to be a great conversation.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Always excited to chat with you.
So let's jump into this. I would love to talk about what you are thinking these days as you are looking across the workplace culture landscape in regard to appreciation. What are you seeing?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we did a talk just the other day for a big corporation, one of the fastest growing therapy clinics in the state of Arkansas. And we were talking about this whole notion, and the cornerstone was appreciation at work, right? Like at the end of the day, none of this matters if they're not receiving it, right? And so this, which is the whole principle. But like, what are the other steps? Like beyond just like, okay, cool, team member Bob over here receives appreciation with quality time. Like, what else is there? Like, what are the other things? And so it's just fascinating to me, man. I mean, all the data is just more and more and more and more. Love covers a multitude of sins. Like the better relationships we have, the more we serve, the more we give, the more we build rapport, I guess is that love word in the business, the easier it is to scale and grow, you know?
Yeah. So what were you sharing in this talk? Because I think this could be helpful for our listeners, because this is fresh, this brand like this week.
Let's go. Yeah. So there's two things that compound appreciation. And then it's almost like this other side of an arc that has to happen. So there was two conversations. Number one, JC, what else do we need in terms of appreciation? So we'll go over those two. And then two, all right, I just love on my team all the time. Now we have this like deep relationship. Like I feel like almost people are taking abuse of this, right? Like it's just like we have a great culture. And I've struggled with this. You know, JC's a nice guy. He's he's not going to fire us. Like we're just going to like have fun and all the stuff, right? So what are these two pillars that lean against each other, and actually create a healthy form of leverage? And maybe you've got a better word there than what I use, leverage, but like this healthy form of leverage. So, all right, first two things, like what compounds appreciation. I've really dug into this with like reading through the Gospels, but I believe if I like had to like summarize this into culture, that there's three areas we have to do, which is knowing, appreciating, and then serving. Knowing, appreciating, and serving. And there's actually, when it comes to knowing, so there's three different levels of knowing someone. And so if we think about our team, these three different levels are at the surface, it's facts. Okay. Like I know Attaway, he's got a great beard and he's married and I know facts, right? The second stage here is I know preferences. Preferences. And then the third stage is I know who they are. They're like their why, their purpose. Like, what are they about? Right.
Yeah.
And so, talking with teams, so many of them, I don't really have that desire. I don't have the, maybe it's out of frustration, right? Like, I don't like Bob. He's weird. I don't like Tim. He doesn't work hard. I don't like, and so like all these reasons for us to get to know, but I actually think Jesus had this like great desire to truly know people and where they were at. Like he was interested in others. Like, I mean, think about this, like the most perfect being in the world, who was probably the most interesting person in the world, was actually more. Yes. In fact, what was it? He was asked how many questions? Like 300 and something.
Over 300, 307, I think. Yeah.
And he only answered like 6 or 7 or 8. Like right. He turned around. I was like, I want to ask you a question. So I'm pulling this back to the biblical stuff here, but we got the superficial, the deeper. And so I get these team members and they're like, hey, why? I don't want to know this guy. And so I look at the story of Gethsemane when Jesus is there and he knows where he's headed. He's about to go to the cross and he's kind of like pulling back. He's like, I want to go pray and be with my Father. And he's praying like, I don't want to do this. Is there any other route for this to happen? And he takes 3 of his disciples. He puts them, on guard. He's actually said like, hey, wait here and be on guard and be on watch. And I'm going to go pray. And he come back later and his disciples were asleep, right? Like this is his team, right? This is his team. And oftentimes I have this excuse of like, my team is not functioning at the right level. They're not doing what I tell them. Like, this is Jesus had the same problem. It's like, how do I get these jokers to do their job? In fact, it didn't just happen once, it happened 3 times.
Mm.
And so I really just want to break this down of like, how do we as an organization have a desire to know the people that we're on mission with, right? And oh, by the way, this also matters with our clients and with our strategic partners for this therapy organization. They work with public school systems, right? So people that are working side by side aren't even in the same company. They're like they work for a different company, right? And so you talk about even more complex, right? So this first idea of okay, appreciating compounded by like knowing and the desire to know.
I think there's so much there to unpack. It really seems to center on the power of knowing the individual, of seeing people as individual 3D human beings, not just as cogs in a machine or as functions on an org chart. You have to get to know them, and there's your first pillar. Then you move into appreciating.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about that as preferences,
That's right.
right? How they prefer to feel or be appreciated. Is that what you mean?
That's right. That's right. How do they receive it, right? And so we've all heard of the book
Yeah.
5 Love Languages. Of course, you and I are in the appreciating world. And we were speaking at a conference in Little Rock actually, and one of the team members, after we did the whole talk on appreciating, and if you're listening to this podcast, hopefully you know a little bit about that already. But she raised her hand. She's like, JC, oh my goodness, I absolutely love my job. I love it so much. Last year I wanted to quit. And I was like, tell me more. She was like, I actually did so well and I love my job so much. I got employee of the year. And I was like, okay, now I'm even more interested. Like, why did you want to quit? That's not making sense to me. You're saying, like this, I'm not understanding. And she said, I got employee of the year and they had this like big annual banquet. And part of being employee of the year is they were going to bring me on stage and I had to like talk for, just 1 or 2 minutes and I had to share my experiences and all this stuff. And I have like a real phobia. I have a fear of being on stage. I don't want to,
Mm.
I don't want this, it's a classic case of us loving others or showing appreciation in our way, right? Which means nothing, right? So the organization was like, well, hey, I want to show you recognition. I want to show you appreciation through these certain elements. She wanted to quit.
Mm.
And so we got to look at organizations like our purpose for rewards and recognition is it to show off and like fluff, myself of like, hey, we give away bonuses. Hey, we do, or is it actually to show appreciation? And if it is actually about them, then, it's the same thing in our marriages, right? Like my goal here is to show my wife how much I love her. Well, that is not achieved by me doing my love language. It's achieved by me speaking her love language.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so, so this girl, I was like dug in. She was like, I didn't quit, but man, I was anxious. I had anxiety, I had all these things for weeks. And I was her favorite employee. I was a rock star. I was their biggest advocate and I wanted to quit because they weren't speaking my language. And so it's so crucial for organizations to do this. We also it's good for our leaders, Dr. Attaway. We're busy. We're so busy. We're just living a very fast paced culture. And so, I've struggled in the past with my language of appreciation is quality time. I like spending time with folks, right? And so immediately when I'm like, hey, culture's a little struggling, or hey, my HR says, hey, we need to get out there a little bit more, my immediate thought is quality time. Crap, how do I meet with 100 people? Like how do
Right.
I, and so, but now that you understand, like some are gifts, some are quality time, some are, so on and so forth. And it allows you to streamline this and hit what matters most, right? So we start off by how much do you know your team? And I do a little simple exercise of, yeah, it's just, guys, it's simple. We can formulate. I have a list of my team members, and then I just like, when's the last quality conversation that I had with them, right? Because I want to get to know them, and I try to never let that. And I have a little uh, uh, formatting formula there where it turns red if it's longer than 6 weeks. It's really that simple, right? And so like I try to like everyone around me, I want to talk with them like a deeper conversation at least every 6 weeks. I take notes on that so I can follow up at a deeper level. This isn't KPI. This is like, how's your son? This is your wife's anniversary is XYZ. It's like these deeper things, right? So, all right, knowing, appreciating. This third one is like serving. sometimes we have this opportunity to serve deeper. So I have this, like, I learned this from Ron Kaufman, the 5 levels of service. So it's basic, expected, desired, surprising, and unbelievable. These are the 5 levels of service. And really, by service, we can think about this in interactions. And so I would encourage, like, if you're listening, what I would do here is I would write down touch points that you have with your team. Okay, touch points. It could be a monthly review. It could be an onboarding. It could be just a daily water hole check-in, like whatever it
Hmm.
is, but like, here's
Yeah.
5 touch points. And I would encourage you to just think about what level are those interactions? Are they basic? Like, just, hi, how are you? Like, I often see this when I hear people say, I'm never mean to them. Like, normally it's like, I didn't say anything wrong. I didn't, like,
Mm.
it's almost like you're protecting the negative versus like showcasing the positive. So it's basic, and then it's expected. Like, what do I think when I do one-on-ones with Susie, what do I think she expects from me? Like, and everybody has different expectations. So it's important we think about these individually, right? Um, the next level is desire, like beyond expectation. What is the desire? I think about this, maybe an example would be email. When my team messages me, my team responds to me, let's just say that I get an email from Dr. Attaway at 4:30 on a Friday evening. At minimum, I need to respond. That'd be bad leadership if you ignore your team members, right? The expectation is probably Monday or Tuesday, right? Because it's obviously Friday afternoon. But Dr. Attaway's desire would be that I respond maybe that day, maybe the next day. But he would be surprised, okay, that next level, if not only did I message back, I already solved the problem, right? And he
Mm.
would be maybe super surprised if not only did I solve that problem, I created something, or I sent him something extra, or maybe I called him, or maybe I so in my interactions, how often am I just doing basic stuff, right? Like, okay, cool, I understand your love language is your language appreciation is quality time. And I sat there with you and, check the box, right? How can we go deeper with our service, right? And the cool thing about appreciation at work is appreciation is the verb we use for the language in the workplace, for building rapport, right? Like, love is the language that we use, the verb we use for this intimate relationship at home in our marriage, right? And so on and so forth. These are all just, how do we describe, what verb do we use to build relationships? I could also, what's the language with God, right? Like, it's knowing, it's showing appreciation or showing love, right? And then it's just, how do I serve? How do I go? How do I give to a really deep level? So this has been something that's like really on my mind as we're out there consulting and working with organizations. The second thing of this, right, is there's got to be a leverage point, right? Like, leverage is good. It's really healthy, right? Like, that's the whole idea. Those that are really pro capitalism, right? Like, the whole idea is that employees have leverage over the employer, and employers have a healthy leverage over the employee, and it creates progress.
Mhm.
It's the idea, it's good or bad. That's the idea of capitalism, right? When the workplace, is the same thing. Like, the goal here is that I build such a rapport with my team that they don't want to leave. They want to work for me, and they never want to leave, and they're very proactive. Right now, the opposite side of this is that if they want to work for me, I need them to do really good, right? And so in workplaces, we also have this, like, you can't just be all loving. Like, imagine your kids, you just give them everything you want, you love them all the time. Like, my kid's love language is is food, and so I just feed him all the time. Like, that's not healthy. There's also got to be this accountability, right? And so you almost, as we're working on appreciation, we're also turned around, and through things like committed and things like this, we're also focused on how do we teach managerial stuff? How do we teach KPIs, and make sure that we are building systems and frameworks that also have this leverage of, like, we have certain things we got to accomplish and do in the workplace. So anyway, love, love, love. They want to work for us. They want to stay with us. They want to do whatever it takes to serve the organization. And also, the organization healthily needs to serve them, and so on and so forth.
I love that tension between measuring what they're doing, the achievement, right?
Mm,
Which we need to do. I mean,
Right.
there's no doubt about that. I think any leader worth their salt, you measure what matters.
That's
And
right.
so if you're measuring their achievement, their KPIs, KRAs, whatever you call that, that's great.
Hmm.
But the other side of the equation is seeing them as an individual human being, seeing them as a person, not just as a function, not just as what they did, but as who they are. And it sounds like what you're describing is a way to combine the power of those two things in such a way that you're creating an environment
Yeah,
where people lean in.
that's right.
I think that is the workplace that is going to be the high performers. That is the place where people are going to stay, where retention does increase and churn drops. And that's what we're seeing with the companies that we work with.
I read an article just yesterday. Let me find it here. Yeah, right here. This is the latest Gallup polls. Okay. So, this latest Gallup on culture specifically, it
Yeah.
was analyzed across 736 studies, 347 organizations, 53 industries, 180,000 team members in 90 countries. Okay.
Mm.
After all the research, they put together the highest performing quartile, or excuse me, the highest engaged quartile, the employees that were engaged the most, compared to the bottom three quartiles, just focused on the cornerstone of this study being engagement in the workplace. All right, here's what they found: 23% higher profitability, 18% higher sales production, 14% higher production on the product side, 10% higher customer loyalty, 78% lower absenteeism. Hello.
Mm.
Happy
Mm.
people aren't sick as much.
Mm.
63% fewer safety incidents, 32% fewer quality defects, 21 to 51% lower turnover, depending on the industry. And here's the deal: 70% more employees who report that they are, quote, thriving. Right. And so, like, you don't see this, right? Like, you can look at the cornerstone being sales or employee count or quality of product, or you need to look at a lot of different stats and they don't come out like this. But culture is one of those. Culture, everything, most organizations in the world, we build on human beings. I know they found maybe last week, right? It was the first billion-dollar company with one employee, but we got one of those in the world. The rest of us, we have teams, right? And so we got to build and be able to, this ability to attract the greatest talent in the world and also then retain the greatest talent in the world is just, it's key.
Well, and I think that's the work of a lifetime. Learning how to create environments that do touch people where they are,
Mm,
who they are, instead of who we think they should be
that's right.
or how we think they should operate.
That's right.
Getting to know them as people. And I don't know a shortcut to that other than that it takes time and intentionality. And I think that's what I'm hearing from you.
That's right. That's right. I
You know,
think the ultimately the leaders, I mean, the more we're growing, my role is our people and then content. We live in a
yeah,
world where the owner is a great content machine, right? Content and our people, content and our people. We're trying to get, I mean, and you're seeing this. I mean, whether it's Ramosys, whether it's, the big players in our world right now, they're hiring CEOs, they're hiring operators, and they're going content. And then how do I just, am I a people attractor,
that's it. Well, I think in the work that you're doing, coming alongside companies like you did this week, speaking to them, helping them to understand this information, that is a component. But we know that information alone never leads to transformation.
That's right.
You've got to have execution. So,
Right.
how are you challenging people to execute on what you're talking about?
I think at the end of the day, if I'm talking to a CEO, in this case, was working with the CEO to build out this format. We were just talking about, we relate this back to all of our goals and our vision and our purpose and our why. Like, what are we doing? And then honestly, I'm a simple guy. I look at the data, and the data, just like this Gallup, shows me that the priority as a CEO is the people. And so, when and every once in a while we are working with them on some accountability and like a day to day or month to month, format. And of course, appreciation at work, we offer this, right? We offer just to the HR, like, hey, we're going to help you. The company's not doing it, but you, and we're going to work with you. And then we have, hey, we're going to get the whole company in. We're going to make this
Mhm.
a priority overall. And so I think at AEW, we got the best resource to do this, right? Or we come in and we do a day workshop or whatever the case may be. And so there's a lot of different frameworks of which we can we can serve and help organizations um, execute and implement this, right?
Well, exactly right. We don't tell you what to do and then leave you to it. We're willing to come alongside of you and help you to execute and implement this
That's right.
so that you can see those results. I mean, 23% higher profitability. Did you say 76% lower absenteeism?
Isn't that insane? I mean, if you think about
Wow.
that, if you have a team, I was talking about, if you, if you have a team of 100 people, and in a normal organization, they take 2 weeks of sick leave, and in a healthy organization, they take, which is 10 days. In a healthy organization, they only take two. That that extra 8 days, whatever it is, multiplied by 100 people, that's 800 days of work.
Wow.
If I'm doing quick math here, so you guys listen to the podcast. You can email me if you correct me, but like that's 800 days of labor work. That's just an advantage in and of itself. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's crazy.
And that's why we do what we do, to help companies, to help organizations to move into healthy workplace cultures that are sustainable over time, that see people as people, and that help them to achieve those results.
That's right. Let's go.
JC, I'm so grateful for your time today. Thanks for
Okay.
being here, for sharing, and for continuing to join in this work of helping companies move into that healthy, sustainable place with their culture.
Absolutely, my friend. Looking forward to it next time.